Hey, everybody, what's going on? Happy Friday. It's Capes and Cowls, man. We're back. We are back, and I'm excited to have you guys back with us. We got some stuff to talk about. We got the Batman. Not the Batman, but I guess Batman Brave and the Bold, or someone's balls fell off. I don't know what it's called anymore. But either way, Ben Affleck apparently is rumored to be directing. And that was a thing that I think a lot of people were talking about in general, that if it was going to happen, I don't know. We didn't really have a chance to talk about the Ant-Man box office yet. It still was number one last week, but pretty, I don't know if dismal is the word, but it's fair to say. And people have been talking about the luster kind of being off Marvel. Why is that? I think that'll be a lot of the majority of what we talk about here today is Marvel. Where do they go? Can they pick it back up? Can they get that excitement back? I think that's going to be the majority of it. And The Flash is coming out. CinemaCon, they're going to screen it. The three of us might be there. We're going to talk about that as well. So that's the majority of the stuff that we're really going to get into. And we're glad that you guys are going to join us. If you haven't already, hit that button, man. Look at us. We're almost there. We're close to 68,000, 2,000 away to 70. And you guys can show a little class and help us get there. Spotify. We are on video. And people have been checking out. People get mad now, and then I'll post on Spotify right away, and I love it. I love seeing those comments like, "Hey, why isn't this on Spotify?" It gets me excited. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not being a dick. I'm just saying it makes me go, "Oh man, I got to put up on Spotify," because they're Spotify listeners now. I love that. All right, guys, you see Sith Council there. Well, Capes and Cowls has our own stuff. Winston usually wears it every week, which is I'm not going to give him crap for it this week. He's not wearing it. Coy never wears it. So that's not true. Coy wears it also. But we do. Coy is showing a little class by drinking out of the show some class mug. Winston's got the big thing mug. So you can get yourself all of that and more. Help out the show and do it. Show just an ounce of class. And you want to show even more class? Patreon.com/thebigthingshow. We're moving some stuff over to the website. But the other thing, I've talked to the guys about this, but what you never really see, you don't ever see me and Winston and Coy in the same room with Roxy and Steph and Mike and Brett and Kate. Well, you're going to see all that. It's going to be an exclusive event that we're going to do to kind of launch the announcements of the live tour and everything. It's going to be an exclusive event for when we launch the new website. So keep an eye out for that. All right, let's get into it, everybody. Let's talk about the Batman. I can't wait to talk about it. Let's do it. It's Capes and Cowls. Me, Coy, Winston. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Capes and Cowls, big thing. Myself, Coy Jandro, Winston A. Marshall. We are here. This is us, not the TV show.
Lock this up.
Great show.
Right.
Get out of here, mama. I ain't talking to you no more.
He's one of my Batmans, Justin Hartley. This is us.
Oh, yeah?
Great. He's got a Green Arrow look, but I think he'd be a good Batman, too. He's got a regalness.
Oh, no, he's the actor kid in This Is Us.
Justin Hartley?
He's a little too pretty.
Batman's pretty. Walking around all billionaire playboy.
I get it.
Nah, dude.
Yeah,
I don't see that.
I'm not on board with that one. I'm sorry, Coy.
I'm usually pretty good.
I'll tell you what. It's not that I don't think he's a good actor. I don't think he's a great actor.
He's voiced Batman a couple times. That's the inspiration.
So
I was like,
have I.
this sounds great. On this show, right here.
No, my bathroom.
I am vengeance.
Right.
I am the name.
Not enough
Get out of there! Why did you say that name? Swear to me, Martha! It's amazing how
Sometimes
many times
they're big enough. You call him Martha.
It's amazing how many times I poop and scream out Martha.
It's a uniting force.
We're back, everybody. Speaking of Batman, let's just do this.
Let's get into it.
Let's get right into Batman.
It's Brave and the Balls, according to the intro.
Brave and the Bulls. Brave and the Bulls.
That one's okay. That one's allowed.
Is that okay?
Brave and the Bulls? Yeah, Brave and the Bulls.
People have bouncy things.
Who knows? If they do, then I don't want to do this show anymore.
What even are we?
No, there's a lot of rumors going around, guys. All right, so this thing, when it comes to Batman, Brave and the Bold, comic book movie, basically said it's been rumored for a while, and that Affleck was talking to James Gunn to do something, and now that the slate is out there, that people are saying Brave and the Bold is possible. The former Dark Knight actor he was supposed to do the Matt Reeves one that eventually never happened, and Matt Reeves obviously took it over, and then he had his fair share of things he had to deal with, personal issues and whatnot, but he seems to be back on track, and now it looks like there's a potential that Affleck could be doing this, and James Gunn was called out because there hasn't really been any movement on it or anything too, and I guess some guy wrote not wanting to run DC and not wanting to make a Superman film is, I guess, being a professional liar, to which Gunn then said neither of those were lies. I was offered Superman, but I did Squad instead. A few years later, I wanted to tackle Superman. I took it on. I didn't want to be the sole CEO of DC, but when they came and offered it to me and Peter, I said yes because I could focus more on the creative side. So a lot there that we can kind of dive into, and this is, I guess, not just on the Batman side of things, but also on just the DCU side of things.
I think the James Gunn quote is really interesting to start because it's kind of a testament to like the industry evolves and changes. I think it's really odd that people. I think that's why he deletes his tweets every 6 months. Like, it's so ridiculous to have people be like, "Well, you said no once, you should say no forever. You don't want to do this, you're a professional liar." The Superman thing has been really interesting to me because the timeline. Because we had talked about the idea of Superman already being cast, and you guys thought it was crazy. And from what I had heard, the reason I thought that was the case is because the Superman script was almost done, and then they scrapped it, and it looked like James Gunn brought another take, and they fast-tracked it. So the slot was there. So Walter Hamada not wanting Cavill to come back, that's old. That's years old. So it could have been a thing where he just like had a script, it was ready to get in, and then it evolved into the CEO. But if that's the case, that's really interesting. If you're already the writer, you've already got Safran on, and now you're the CEO, how does that change your duties? How does that change your timing and responsibilities? If he ends up directing this,
how does it also change your balance on being on not giving and people going, well, he's clearly going to give himself the majority of the money toward marketing towards his film. You know, he's going to push the stuff that he really wants to. The other stuff that maybe should get more marketing won't. I'm just saying. I'm not telling you that's not the case. But you know it's going to be said.
No, of course. And my it's not to say that he couldn't manipulate it that way, but you do realize there are checks and balances to prevent that. He has a co-CEO for that exact reason.
100%. That doesn't change public opinion.
No, I know, but people are stupid, and we know this. Look, man. I think it just the original topic as far as Ben Affleck. I would love to see him do it. I understand the idea of like let him play in the sandbox he plays in, but he's proven that he's a good director, and what has made these films succeed in any form or fashion is when you bring in talent and let them cook. Like that's it. Like I think of the Ryan Cooglers, the Russos, like the James Gunn.
But let them cook in your kitchen.
Right.
Don't give them a new kitchen.
Absolutely,
it's like their own kitchen and start a whole business with your budget.
Right.
That's what Star Wars did. That's what Marvel's been doing the last couple movies, and it ain't working. Stay inside of your own restaurant. And I think that's what they're going to do with Affleck, and I think that they bring on someone like Affleck to say, okay, look, what's your take? This is where we want to go with it. This is the story. Is this story something that you could do? Very similar to what they did with Coogler, with Marvel. And I think that's because he's wanted to do something, and maybe they couldn't, the take that he wanted to do and other things he wanted to do. I think this is a really smart move for not only Gunn and Safran, but I think it's a smart move for Affleck, because I think that out of all the Town is fantastic.
Yeah.
Argo is fantastic. Gone Baby Gone is my favorite of his.
Gone Baby Gone is incredible.
It's my favorite of his because it's not, and I think he's great in the two movies that, well, the other one, Live by Night, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Saw it once.
But he wasn't this one. He was going through his stuff.
Yeah, and it felt like it. There was a removal.
He was going through his stuff. I give him a pass on that particular movie because it's not a bad movie. It's just dull.
It's also just very by the numbers, and like he doesn't direct by the numbers normally.
It didn't have that Affleck. It didn't have the flair. But what I was saying though is that I think that by them doing this and him doing this, he can step back and just be a director and direct this movie and direct, and I think that if you can get that kind of intensity from the town and put this in the Brave and the Bold and do that, I think that this could be a really, really special movie. And it also, not all of them, because there's still going to be that mentality of I'm never going to watch this if Snyder's not involved one way or another. But there's other people who are going to be like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot, but I'm not going to like it. Oh wait, they got Ben Affleck? All right, maybe I'll give it a shot.
Because he does crime so well.
Yeah.
Like if you look at him growing up in
robbed
Boston,
the Dunkin' Donuts.
This is the guy. He broke in. He started serving coffee. When you look at what his filmography includes, there's a lot of intense crime. There's a lot of really good performances by already great actors. The Town, I'm always so impressed by the caliber of work everyone puts in that film. There's not a single weak link in that film. So if you've got him doing like a crime drama like a Batman, and you've got an entire family, if you've got the Bat family, I want to see someone that can handle an ensemble. And all of his films have great ensembles.
Yeah.
All of his films have very specific tones, except the one we both give him a pass for. But there's a style to Ben Affleck that he doesn't get enough credit for. I think that The Town is honestly, and this is gonna get a lot of people mad, I consider The Town our generation's like Godfather, Goodfellas crime drama. Like we don't have crime dramas today like that.
It's
like,
a really good movie, but
what is like that of the last 20 years?
I would be part of those people that give you some
In
stuff.
the last 20 years, what other crime dramas are up to that scale?
Heat, but that's from '95.
That's
I know.
What crime dramas?
in the last 10, 15 years are as good as The Town.
Inception.
That's a sci-fi thriller.
That is a
science
crime
fiction crime.
drama.
It's got crime in it.
They're stealing information.
The Winter Soldier has crime in it.
Well,
you can call most anything. There's crime.
Ant-Man's a crime.
That's a crime drama.
That's a crime comedy.
When you think about Interstellar, you go, man, that crime.
I know.
Not Interstellar, Inception.
Oh, sorry. Still,
I'm sure.
Yes, you are having to pull a full Ocean's
It is a
11
heist.
on his brain.
it's a
not
heist film,
movie.
but a crime and heist are different tones. Ocean's films.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking
Right.
about full-on drama.
You're talking like mob mentality.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm saying The Town is
I'd say it's in the
between-
conversation as far. I think you got to take it easy.
I mean,
with
I'm
the
definitely from
Godfather
Boston, I
and all that
understand,
stuff
but-
too. But I think that I hear what you're saying. It's a great movie.
I'll watch The Town before I watch Godfather. Like I'll watch The Town 5 times out of 6. Like if you watch,
it's a good movie, but it's not. I mean,
I'll only give you that
You're
because
overstepping
of
your bounds.
how you are. You really are. I will only give you that because The Town isn't like 3.5 hours.
Oh, the
is it?
director's cut is that was dope as hell.
Well, I haven't seen the director's
So
cut.
the regular cut's the Goodfellas. The director's cut's the Godfather. That's what I'm saying. Like the full immersive cut.
I just like I love The Godfather. It's in my top 10 films of all time. I have to really be in the mood because that's 3.5 hours of my life.
Look, but
I want a 3 hour
point at all this is that this is a good person to have direct this movie.
Yeah.
Because I think that it does bring in a little bit more and what's his face? What's the new Robin's name? Damian?
Yeah, Damian Wayne.
So Damian Wayne is going to be a newer character that needs to pop, and it's going to be probably a newer actor. And what I always like about whether it's Andy Serkis or whoever's directing, I like when a good director was an actor who can work with other actors, especially newer actors, because it's not just that technical thing. It's like listening and understanding and collaborating with the actor's performance. And I think you're going to need that because I don't want to, and this will go into our conversation with Marvel. The problem with superhero movies that you're going to lose people with is when it starts to become style over substance. Right. And when it comes to like again, and I have no qualms about it. I enjoyed watching Ant-Man. Enjoyed do I think it's a great movie? I don't. Do I think it's a good movie? But I think I enjoyed watching it. But I can acknowledge that it's also a pure volume CGI spectacle that lost what Marvel was made special, and DC cannot afford to do that. They need to fire into the great characters that they've had in the past, and really dive deep into the relationship between Damian and Bruce, which it should be. And give me a big. That's what I told you guys with The Batman. I really love that movie. It's a really good movie. I've watched it again. My biggest gripe with it is the ending because and it's not because it's not good. It is, but it's like the whole movie is this David Fincher type movie that I'm so invested in that the end, like, well, we have to have a Batman type of feel at the end, and it's the most Batman out of the entire thing.
You're saying he's fighting all of the Riddler.
It's like in Penn Station, or it's that big piece, and it's a necessary piece to have. I get it, but I'm just saying there was the one thing that the spectacle is losing me.
What they should have done, honestly, and I think it felt like he was leaning into that a little bit, but it just didn't connect the dots quite as well. You should have had more of a Dark Knight Batman. So like when he ends up invading the construction site, but while that's happening, you're still having to kind of deal with like the boats deciding where they're going to blow each other up, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, right. Stuff like exactly.
It went a little too Batman's going to beat up the bad guys now.
Look, and I get it, and it worked for the movie.
Yeah,
it worked for the movie. But I'm just telling you that I think that because there's been so many superhero movies and there's so much in the comic book genre,
enjoying the not that part of them.
Yeah,
I get. I like my favorite character in Ant-Man was Dust Malchin because it felt outside of like the movie. And it was fun and weird.
It's the character development, and that's why I'm enjoying the TV shows for a lot of these things. TV, to me, in general, not just for Star Wars and Marvel, TV in general is better than movies for me. As far as a storytelling device,
dude, I just started shrinking, and it's like
good.
the best stuff.
It's
You
really
just
good.
started?
Yeah,
I'm like,
You
I watched
late,
5
baby?
in a day.
My,
I got obsessed.
I'm like 2 episodes.
incredible.
Oh, I love it. My teacher's in it, so that's why I was. She's the OCD patient.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So when she told us, I was like, I guess this show is amazing.
That's what we're
good.
living in. Is
Yeah.
this golden age of TV has continued, but I feel like when the golden age of TV started with your Sopranos and your Breaking Bad, I feel like film was still keeping up. I feel like something happened in the last like 5 years that the golden age of TV has taken a lot of the talent, and now the movies don't feel the same because we've gotten into
They
the
still get the
space.
talent, Coy, but the problem is that they still get the talent. The problem is they rely because they have to on spectacle in the
Because
theater.
everything's watching TV if you're home.
And it's not, and because if you're
go to
paying
the
money,
theater.
because what they want to do is they expect, okay, we're paying $200 million to make a movie, which I think, first of all, stop with these big budgets. But they go and they make these $200 million movies, and then you go and you're like, okay, well, if they're spending the money to see it, we got to give them this big, huge spectacle to go. And it's not why everyone is going. And the problem is you only have 2 hours to tell the story.
Right.
So you really only have, you got to have like 2 big, massive set pieces, right? Something that happens right around the middle, and something
then
that
a third
happens right
act.
around the end, and that's going to take in 45 minutes of the movie. So you really have like an hour and 10 minutes to tell the whole story.
And that to me is the problem. If you're gonna because now with all the streaming services and they're doing their own movies, so God knows how many different Netflix movies have come out and everything else, you flooded the market. But then what studios need to do, and especially comic book movies, but what studios need to do is they need to go and they need to look at the films that over the last few years, yes, I know the pandemic screwed a lot of stuff up, but you need to look at the stuff that has been ultra successful. You need to look at the
Dune.
You need to look at Dune.
Great example.
You need to look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep.
You need to look at there was one other major one, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yep.
You need to look at how those have your set pieces.
But remember this though, when even Dune, the example I gave, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, they're successful because of the money that they cost to make.
The ratio.
No,
The ratio.
I agree with you, but you're also focusing on character. The last one I was going to give is Get Out. Like those are the major ones that I think of that like came out of what seems like obscurity. Maybe not Dune, but the other 3 came out of obscurity. Did it on shoestring budgets, more or less. But they focus so much on actually telling the story and focusing on those characters that it brought the rest of it out.
Yeah, I honestly think this Oscar season is the counter blockbuster fatigue Oscar season. Like if you look at the movies that are nominated, there's a lot of stuff. Top Gun being the exception, but Top Gun's a great story.
But the Oscars, they never get nominated.
But I'm just saying, like the things we're drawn to. I've been more captivated by the Oscars this year than I've had in 5 because I'm like, counter programming.
Well, I can definitely say this for my years with the reviews with Mark and the stuff. I always looked forward to the Oscar movies that came out. I didn't really, to be honest, I don't care about the Oscars themselves, but the movies themselves, because that's where you get the most quality as far as storytelling goes, as far as character building and development and great performances. You get it in that. And what I thought a movie like we just mentioned before, what Inception did so well was that it combined all of that stuff in a very thinking blockbuster, which I think changed the game in a bit too. And then that's why I like the first 3 phases of Marvel. There's a lot of stuff inside of Marvel that is like Winter Soldier is a great character building piece, and they've lost that. Marvel has lost that completely. It's gone, and it can come back, but it's gone. And I think that Spider-Man No Way Home had it.
Yeah, I think now it's the exception, not the rule, and it used to be the rule.
Look at Shang-Chi. I'm sorry. Shang-Chi is an example of a movie to me. The stuff I love about Shang-Chi is the stuff with him and his dad and his family. The stuff with the dragons and everything else too. I'm like, I don't care about it. I'm like, it's
first 2
boring.
acts of that film are what Marvel Phase 1 was.
Yes.
And then the 3rd act of that film was what Marvel Phase 4 was.
100%.
And that brings the
100%.
average down for me, right? Like, so I consider the first 2 acts of Shang-Chi like almost 4.5 star, like up
good.
there.
It's great.
But because the 3rd act felt like a 3-star, it drops it to that like B plus.
It's forgettable to me.
The third, and
third
what
act.
worries me is that in Phase 1 through 3, the bold swings they were taking, they had the wiggle to. Now expectations are so high for the stuff in the 3rd act. I don't know if they know how to balance clearly they didn't in Phase 4, how to balance those scales anymore.
Yeah.
Because even the 2 we just mentioned, No Way Home, I think is the one that's done it. But that was like Sony, Marvel having to juggle 100 variables. The only one that I put in that same echelon is Shang-Chi, and that's 2/3 of it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single Phase 4 film that's up to par.
No, I think what happens though, and I think that what makes me nervous when I saw a comment like this today, because we just had Katie Sackhoff on for Mandalorian, right? And I saw a comment talking, because we had mentioned Andor inside of that episode, and I saw somebody write the comment that I see that I just kind of go, where it's like, Andor was boring to me, it didn't have enough action. And I'm like, that's what the note is that the studio gets nervous about. And they 100%. See those types of comments and they go, well, if we don't, if we can't get people to follow along to it, and we just develop on actual storytelling and development, people are going to go, it's boring, there's not enough action, and they're not going to buy the ticket, and that's what happens.
I can understand that, and I can understand that concern, but then I look back and I look at Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon.
Right,
sure, there is action in there, but that is 5% of that show. Literally, I want to think of like the most action that really came out of House of the Dragon was the dragon in midair dragon fight.
Right,
that's maybe the most that came out of it.
It was amazing, and because of that, though, see, that's the thing. When you lead up to a scene just like the one you're just mentioning for House of the Dragon, the reason why that particular scene, without spoiling anything, is so impactful is because of all of the development leading up to it. If that just happens in episode 1 or 2. Instead, you go, oh, that was a cool scene, but you don't have. It was when I had a reaction to it. I that's one of the few ones that normally when I react to stuff, I don't overdo it because I don't. It's not me. I just kind of watch and go, okay, I make a couple cracks. I'm going no, because I was invested.
Yeah.
And like the problem, and that's why I always say, like when people are like, oh, don't you think Obi-Wan should have been a movie? No, I think it should have better writing. Like, because I still think that the investment of it, because you cram everything together in 2 hours. It's also why I think Uncharted, even though it made a lot of money, terrible decision to not make that a series. You could have made a Nathan Drake, especially all the games that you had. You could have made, especially look at what The Last of Us has done.
But see, the funny thing is that's actually the element of where I think they need to stop attempting to make video game movies.
That's right.
It's serialized like comic books. Comic books, they've made it work because they've made it the event thing.
Exactly, and unless you're gonna go straight Harry Potter with it, because it's the same thing where you just had, and even that had to strip its content.
It did, but at least made 8 movies.
No, right. But again, off of 8 books, but then you even had to strip that down.
100%.
It's the same thing with video games. What people don't realize is video games tend to take somewhere between 40 to 80 hours to complete. That's a lot of content to try and smush into a 2-hour movie.
Again, why Last of Us is working. But I also think a thing we haven't brought up is the movies you gave examples of, and the movies I think, including Winter Soldier, that work in Marvel, are the action is storytelling, and I feel like that's what we've lost. It's like now we have storytelling cut to the action. Yeah. When you have storytelling work, like look at Everything Everywhere. That is a great example of, oh my God, how did they make this insane cacophony of sight and sound storytelling? Look at The Matrix. The Matrix is maybe the best example of all time.
And it's the same example with Everything Everywhere. It's like because you're invested in it, because you set her up and where she is in her life and how she feels kind of insignificant and all these things that are happening to her with her family and the relationship with her dad and her husband and her daughter and all of that. And then you combine it into this crazy spectacle, and it has impact because you care about the characters.
And
then
that's just like make butt plug jokes.
You're right there. You're 100%
right. You have to tell at the same time. You don't get away.
But well, I was going to say you even brought up the Winter Soldier, and I think you want to talk about again the action set pieces, just further developing the character. I think specifically about like Bucky and the knife drop situation. That was a moment that when it happened, you went, "Oh, wait oh my God!"
Yeah.
Like the action in action movies is very similar. I remember my college professor telling me this. The action in action movies, or the action in plays, is very similar to songs and musicals. The song is not why you're there. It's what people remember when they walk out of it, but the song is supposed to be an extension of, I can't express my feelings anymore, so I have to sing it.
Right.
The same thing needs to be true about action. The action shouldn't just be there for action's sake. It should be like, we can't settle this with words anymore, so I got to go with your face.
And there's a reason. I mean, like, look at The Raid, right? Like, The Raid is a movie where, like, even every single action piece, even though it's like this extraordinary, crazy choreography, there's emotion behind it. There's a meaning for it. Like in The Raid 2, there's that whole prison scene of how he breaks out and the desperation to try to get out, and like that. And yes, you can do that and tell us. Almost exactly right. It's like a musical, but like that's the stuff that's been lost. And even like we use the example of the Winter Soldier, it's because they treated the first 3 phases of Marvel like a full-on television show. Now, it's funny, that's the criticism it's getting today. Is that it seems like a television show. Yeah, but they're not doing the same thing the way that they did.
It doesn't feel like they have the third act mapped.
No, because if you look
look
at the example of Captain America. Bucky is set up in that first scene and as like the big brother type and all this, and then they're reunited, and then he winds up, you think, dying. Yeah. And if you don't know the comic books, you're going, oh no, that's terrible, because Sebastian Stan at the time wasn't very known. So like, oh man, that's emotionally. Then when he comes back, you're like, oh my God, it's Bucky. And then when he gets involved with them and starts working with him, you're like, okay, these are episodes of a television show. That's the difference of what we're talking about, where you're not necessarily cramming into 2 hours. You're telling a longer story. Now in Phase 4, it's like, boom, 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 boom. This is happening. Big explosion. What the hell is happening? There's 75 of those guys and there's 37 of those. And what is happening? It's a mess.
Part of the problem too is we still want to know what's happening with these characters we've already met. But part of why Phase 1 worked is this was a brand new story we were walking into. We're getting this weird blend right now of people that we've known for years and where they go next, while also getting introduced to the new folks. If we notice, most of the ones that are like new, like Shang-Chi, we're actually sticking to. We're like, oh, I like that. Miss Marvel, I know you have up and down, but for the most part, people come in and go, I like that, right?
Yeah, man, I don't know up and down with that one.
It's the revisiting into, like, Sam and Bucky, where part of it obviously is going to be the writing, but part of it is like, okay, but we were kind of already, and this feels like a weird void. Same thing with Ant-Man, same thing with Thor. Right. It's like this, but we kind of finished your story, but like this doesn't really feel like a good start. Like we already know a lot about you.
I think it's because we can compare it to when it was exceptional.
Right.
I think the issue with the characters that are legacy characters is we remember when we saw those characters and we felt this impossible drive. And when I don't feel that impossible drive, I'm judging it against it. Whereas a new character, I go, I'm interested and I can live at a 5. Whereas if I felt a 9, like I did with Winter Soldier, and now I'm seeing Sebastian Stan and I don't feel that 9, it's like being in a bad relationship.
It's also
I've lost the love.
Like it's also. I'm a 96. I'm watching the 96 Yankees, and they win it, and then they win it again in 98, and then they win it again in 99, then they win it again in 2000, and then they lose a couple tough ones, and then the team. I still love the team, but I'm like, they're not playing like they should be playing. Like, they could be playing better.
It's the comparison.
Yes.
So like when the Red Sox, great parallel. When the Red Sox finally won, it was way bigger to me than you having won those series of them, because suddenly it was new and different.
And that's DC fans.
Exactly. And they're about to have the James Gunn win.
DC fans right now are the Red Sox from absolutely
like 99.
Yeah.
They're 2 years out. It's about to be a beautiful thing.
Not 99. No, it was 2004.
I'm just
they finally won in 2004. But but it's what, 4 years till the movies come out?
Yeah, right.
So I'm saying once they're in swing.
Yeah.
I'm just praying so hard that Marvel doesn't become the Dallas Cowboys.
They're becoming them right now.
They're on a path where they still.
They're in the Tony Romo years right now.
Well, because
they just fumbled right on the end zone.
They just entered the Tony Romo years where there's a lot of promise. There is so much talent in what is happening because you just got your Jonathan Majors as Kang, and you're like.
But that's the problem.
This could be huge.
I've never seen them squander talent like Majors ever.
Well, they haven't squandered
him yet.
They haven't squandered him.
That's what worries me. Is an entire film didn't use Majors in a way that worked to set him up.
Yeah, but I'm going to throw but the flip side, and again, making my point with television, he was phenomenal in Loki.
But that's the concern, is we've seen how good he can be. Right. So it's the Yankees thing. Well, and now we got a win that doesn't feel like a win because we finally met the guy that we've been like, he will get scared.
So I'll tell you what concerned me the most was when I sat here and I talked to Katie O'Brien from Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to her, and even before I interviewed her, Perry was talking to her. Perry had her on for like 40 minutes for talking to her about. You can see both of those interviews, one on mine and one on Collider. And they were changing up pages like the day beforehand and scripting. Like she had and like she came in at one point. And she was like her fight scene wasn't supposed to happen at one point. And then like, she walked in and like, oh yeah, your fight scene happens today. And they were changing pages and changing scripts, and at one point they were wondering if they were going to tie up that whole, because her character mentions Michelle Pfeiffer and Janet, and how Janet had this whole thing, and they both, Michelle Pfeiffer and her, were like, are we going to tie this up? And like, we don't have the time. And it's like, why didn't they have the time? Because of the freaking spectacle, because they needed to bring in 75 extras, and they needed to bring all these people in to have this big fight, and they had to use the CGI to blow up Ant-Man at that side, and they lost the magic of it.
We've already talked about this, and I think truthfully, the real enemy of the MCU here is that they have fallen into the DCEU trap of here is our slate for the next 5 years. I
don't know that's the biggest problem.
I think they're pivoting, though. I think that's something
are.
DC didn't do. I like that Kevin Feige came out and was like, hey, we've been listening to the fans. We see the problems. We're going to move this here. We're going to move this here. We're going to only have 2 this year. And I don't think DC ever did that to scale.
Listen, before we move on, I do want to we can continue this conversation, too, because it's pretty fascinating. I like the idea that we can keep moving into the blending of both the Marvel cinematic universe where it is and the potential now of the new DCU. But before I do that, I also want to let you guys know about our friends over at BetterHelp. All right, everybody. So this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Big fans of BetterHelp. You guys have been hearing me talk about it on the show over the course of the last couple of months, and they've already helped out people on this show. They've helped out our audience. So I'm very excited that we continue to have a relationship with them because you guys know when you're at your best, you can do great things. But a lot of times, sometimes, life can get you bogged down and you can feel overwhelmed, like you're not showing up in the way that you want to. And working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you. Because if you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything that life throws at you. And like I said, I had brought this up a couple different times, and Roxy's talked about it too. Roxy was looking for somebody to talk to, and I had recommended from BetterHelp because, like I said, and I say it many times over, we only work with people that we really believe in, and we believe in BetterHelp, and BetterHelp has already helped out Roxy, and she's already talking to somebody, and they're really they're great over there. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, it's flexible, it's affordable, and it's entirely online. What you do is you fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. So if you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. You have to visit betterhelp.com/bigthing today, and you'll get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, once again, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, and as I mentioned yesterday and before, and I'm very thankful to BetterHelp because, and I only bring this up because she talked about it and she brought it up on the show yesterday. Roxy Stryer was looking for someone to talk to. I had suggested BetterHelp, talking to them, and it's been really helpful. So, like I said, if you're able to do it, check them out. Talk to them. It's always good to talk to somebody, so BetterHelp. All right, jumping back into it. Yeah, Winston, you were going to make a point.
Yeah, just it's not to say that I'm not excited about other stuff, but part of the issue with putting that slate out there like that, if delays happen,
right.
If you need more time,
Blade.
If you look, Blade, for example, this idea of you promise me I'm getting the Fantastic Four in 2026. If it doesn't happen in 2026, we riot.
Right.
You have put yourself under the unnecessary gun when you look at what Phase 1, 2, and 3 all did. You may have given some leeway for the next 3 or 4 films to be like, hey, so we're doing a Thor 2, and we're doing a Captain America 2, and we got this new thing, Guardians. But that's all we got. We didn't get 20 films, and I think by doing that, you've now put this unnecessary pressure where you gotta churn it, you gotta churn it, you gotta churn it.
I think there's the other side of it too, where the fan entitlement, and I'm using the word entitlement, is they want and expect the end of the movie to set up the next 10 things, and that is a problem where if they don't know what those next 10 things are because they haven't announced the slate, then they go like, I don't know, it doesn't feel the same. I want all these Easter eggs and connectivity, and how do I make 87 TikToks about it?
I wanted to ask you, so did you see the tweet from Sandberg about Shazam?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to bring that up
He
today.
said roll, and then Zach said
So
rolling reboot.
So tell them.
Yeah. So essentially, Sandberg, who's doing Shazam,
Director,
the director of Shazam, essentially somebody was like, well, if this isn't even connected to the DCU, why should I even bother going to see it? And he's like, because it's a movie and we worked hard on it and it's good. Like, what kind of question is
they
that?
asked him about it. Didn't they ask him
so
a little different? Though they said he asked him if there was gonna be a second one, and he said, "Look, from
There's
my understanding,
potential.
you're
He
right.
said there's potential, but people have to go."
Right.
And the conversation went into the fact that we can no longer, and that is definitely a look at where we are as a society, but the fact that we can't look at what is directly in front of us It's what you were just talking about. We have to already see, what does it have to do with the future? What does it have to do with the next movie, the next TV show? And that's the case in everything in life with social media right now.
And I think social media has caused a different, and in fact, this ties into BetterHelp.
Yeah.
I think that it's a really interesting thing that societally we've gotten to the point of so much stimuli that unless we're anticipating something, we're not living in the present even partway. Because like BetterHelp and any therapy, meditation, things that are centering you, things that are helping you be present, things that bring you back to this are what we need to focus on. Ironically, that Marvel needs meditation. It needs to find itself again and needs to be present in the movie, not in its next 5 movies. It needs to be in that movie.
So a lot of that, I agree with a lot of that. But the other thing that people don't realize, because we're so just accustomed to it at this point, is that the idea of a shared universe, when Marvel started doing it, was something that people kind of, I mean, Kevin Smith did it with Clerks, but it was smaller and it was not as detailed, right? Like there was mentions of like Rick Derris and things of that nature, but it wasn't really a thing that you ever thought you could do because of salaries and all these things that were just, how are they going to make that happen? And they made it happen. So by doing that and making that happen, what the audience, I think rightfully so, does start to expect things, because the difference is because you're not wrong in that we expect all this stuff, but the reason why we expect it is because it was set up this way by Marvel in a television aspect.
Yes.
And that's never been done before, because the same way that you expect from a TV show, you expect from a TV show when you're like, okay, well, look, you've told me now that this is happening. Last of Us, we know that we're getting 2 seasons, right? And then it's like, well, season 2's not coming out now. What do you mean? You told me season 2's coming out because there was delays. But yeah, that's what you expect, because that's how television works. And that is unfortunately the position they put Marvel in. I don't blame the fans for that particularly, but the DCU thing is different in how it's set up. But I don't know, it's tough.
There's only one reason I slightly disagree, because a good TV show, for example, yes, I'm aware that you have a 20 episode order for the show. I'm not worried about the next episode until I have fully ingested the one I'm in.
Right.
So
that's why I think it's the binge model of Netflix that we've talked about being negative a decent amount is now what the Marvel model is in a different way.
Right.
It's people expecting the next thing immediately and therefore not appreciating the thing they are in.
Sure.
And I think that's why I think Guardians is going to be really interesting, because I think Guardians is going to be exceptional. I think Guardians is going to really do well. Everyone's going to go like, Marvel problem solved. And then all the conversations we're having are going to be quiet for a minute. And then the Marvels is going to come out. And the Marvels almost feels like the actual Phase 5 kickoff of stakes, because now everyone's in a deficit of expectation. Everyone's worried. And then Guardians is going to be its own separate animal. It's going to break us. And then we got to come back in November.
I hope so. And I only say that because there have been a number of those moments that it felt like that's what would happen with Phase 4 and Phase 5 so far. And there have been like letdowns. So I think I speak for all 3 of us that we really thought that Love and Thunder was going to be one thing.
Yeah.
And then we got in there and it was something completely different. And the same thing with Multiverse of Madness, where it's like Sam Raimi, like, I mean, there's maybe a little concerns about how his style of stuff, but it's Sam effing Raimi.
Yes. And again, I am a fan of Taika Waititi. I really am. I think James Gunn cares more about Guardians of the Galaxy than Taika cares about Thor.
Okay,
100%.
And I think that the emotional level of in general what we're going to see in it, because you saw stuff at Comic-Con that I didn't see that apparently was really, really emotional. People were tearing up, and that's what I heard. That's what I heard, and I think that this is
Toy Story 3 here.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, dude, maybe more.
But listen. The thing is that Gunn talks about Gunn, Batista, Zoe Saldana, they all talk about this is the last ride, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I do think it's going to deliver, and I think you're 1,000% correct that in the overall, it does not mean, oh, okay, Marvel's all good now. It doesn't mean that, because it is about as standalone as it's going to get. I think this is Marvel. This is the Guardians send-off. I could not agree more. I think that all the spotlight is going to land on the Marvels, and I think it was a brilliant move for them to move it.
I think it gives it time to be retooled, and it also gives it time to not live in the Guardian shadow.
Yeah.
We're going to go from May, which is, 2 months from now, so that's a recovery from Ant-Man. It's going to be like, okay, we good. And then we've got 4 months to digest with a show maybe in between. And then by the time that comes out, they could maybe have I think Secret Wars
Invasion.
Oh, I was like, wait a second. I'm like, that's 2 years away. But Secret Invasion,
I think, is not the last time anyone's going to make that mistake on this show.
But I think that Secret Wars is going to be the cleansing that a lot of people wanted from Multiverse. But I think Secret Invasion, if they do it right, is going to be that Winter Soldier feel that's going to make us go like, okay, maybe they've got it back. But it's brilliant timing.
Well, I think the Secret Invasion is gonna get that feeling of, oh, okay, Marvel's got their stuff back together when it comes to the TV shows, because after She-Hulk is like, come on, and what do you do? Like that's She-Hulk to me is the epitome of Phase 4 of the like. And I'm not saying you enjoyed it, great, but you can't deny that it's not. It wasn't that one thing you would watch.
It
Marvel
wasn't WandaVision. It wasn't Loki.
No,
what was the other show that this year? Secret Invasion and there's two.
They were supposed to do.
There's supposed to be 5.
They were supposed to do What If season 2. They were supposed to do Echo. They were supposed
to
do
Loki. So, but look, okay, so that's my point. Look at the 2 we're getting. Those are the ones that I think. I mean, Loki season 1 is my favorite Phase 4 thing next to Spider-Man. I think we're getting the 2 strongest, and I think they moved the ones we heard some issues with Echo. I think What If is like a love it or hate it. It's not talked about to scale. And Ironheart. So I think it was smart of them to be like, okay, we see that you see the cracks in the armor. Ironheart intended. But you move the ones that are maybe like a B and you keep only the A's. I think that Marvel realized after Ant-Man they need an A year. And the only way they can do that is like do less.
That plays into the conversation again with Ant-Man, was that we'll get into the box office of Ant-Man and the drop, because I think I think it justifies everything that we've been talking about. But before we do it, you guys want to make sure you have enough energy to keep up with this conversation. Get yourself a little bit of the AG1, man. Athletic Greens. I love Athletic Greens so much. I love them. AG1 by Athletic Greens, man. They're so good. They're so good. And this is the other one. This is my wife this morning takes all these vitamins, and I go, how do you do that? I can't take a whole bunch of vitamins. I like doing it all in one shot. That's what I do with Athletic Greens. I love it. I take it all the time, every day. You guys know that. I mean, how long I've been talking about Athletic Greens now. Athletic Greens, it's better gut health. It's increased energy. It's, for me, it's the sleep quality. That's what I've been doing. The sleep quality is the best. You can do it right. You can, whether you're working out or before you're making your coffee. Whatever you're doing, you feel ready to go, and it's the health kick. It really is. Between my diet that I have, which I'll tell you about later, and then and Athletic Greens, I've been doing good. I've been having good energy. People have been noticing that. I like that. It helped me with my energy. And why do you want to take a whole bunch of different things? You just take this and that's it. You put it I take it in a bottle of water and I shake it up, and I love it. And AG1 was designed with ease in mind, so you can live healthier and better with having to do a lot. People love it. Katie Sackhoff is, like I said, she's coming in on Monday, and I talked about Athletic Greens on the show, and she loves Athletic Greens. And I'm going to leave that in the show when she says it, of course. It's delivered to me every month. Very easy to make it a daily habit. So if you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens, it gives you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. But you have to go to athleticgreens.com/bigthing. athleticgreens.com/bigthing. All right, thank you again to our friends over at Athletic Greens, AG1. I'm telling you, we've been with them for a long time. I'm so glad that they're with us. People ask all the time, how can you help out the show? Get yourself some Athletic Greens. I've been seeing the comments. People like, I tried it. For the people who just got it recently, let me know how you've been enjoying it. And for people who've been on the fence about it, get it. Try it. Let me know. I have not heard complaints from people who have gotten it. I really haven't. I think one person said they had to poop a little bit, and then once they pooped, they got out, and they
Sounds
were
like they
ready
needed
to go.
Sounds like it was helpful.
Yeah, that was it.
Do you remember ice? It's like Winston, he had to try it a second time with ice, change the game.
I had cold water. I'm just saying. Cold water.
Yeah.
Do not use warm water.
No.
But cold water, it's delicious.
It is. It's amazing how good
really
it tastes.
changes.
It really does. Okay, so the box office on Ant-Man. So it lost to Cocaine Bear one day. People are like, oh, it lost to Cocaine Bear. No, it lost to Cocaine Bear one day.
I mean, that's still a revelatory thing. A second weekend Marvel movie losing to a movie called Cocaine Bear.
In one day, 100%. You're not wrong. But it didn't lose the weekend.
No.
But still, it made $32 million, massive drop, and then Cocaine Bear at 23. And now with Creed coming out, and then John Wick and Scream.
Also, nobody's talking about a second weekend Marvel movie.
No, it's not. It's made. And I should say it's only made $367 million worldwide.
Off of what budget?
It's at least 200, and that's not including marketing. So right,
call it about 455.
So it's still in the red.
We're gonna get close to a Black Adam situation for this one. You're gonna probably, I mean, and considering it's a third movie, this is a major disappointment.
This is up there with BBS.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
BVS, like, you've got the two most marketable characters of all time. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I'll even say of all time. Like, Batman and Superman are maybe the most marketable characters.
Mm-hmm.
And you're introducing Wonder Woman, and you're about to kick off a universe, and that dropped 67% if memory serves. This was 72.
It surpassed. I was watching the Hollywood Reporter thing on it, but yes, it surpassed BVS for having over 100 million in its opening weekend release. For the biggest drop off,
it's a massive drop.
It's
and I think a
crazy.
lot of that is, and it's funny because I think it's a travesty that it was this movie and not Thor: Love and Thunder that did this. Thor: Love and Thunder should have been the one that ate it, and even Doctor Strange. Out of the three of those movies, I like this one the best out of the three.
I do too,
sure.
actually.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why it happened though.
Cumulative.
Yeah.
Yes. It's because
People are tired of it.
People were like, oh, okay, that wasn't exactly what I thought this Multiverse of Madness thing would be, but all right. Oh, that wasn't exactly what I thought Thor was going to be.
She-Hulk's
Okay,
not
right.
anything, yeah.
Oh, She-Hulk. And so by the time you got to Ant-Man, all it took is one person to be like, it was, no, then I'm good.
It's losing its gusto, man.
I kept
Marvel's
saying
losing its
Phase
gusto.
5 was going to turn things around, and I kept saying all through Phase 4, I'm like, I trust them. It's Marvel. I trust them. I think this was the moment of people are like me were like, I don't know. Like, maybe I put my faith too much. Yeah. And at the end of the day, Marvel's still done 80% great. It's still a much stronger than not.
Sure.
The problem is all the recent stuff. It's hard to remember that feeling of Iron Man 1 at this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to feel that.
So are we watching a kind of like superstar athlete in their decline?
Blew out his knee.
They were in those peaks. They were absolutely crushing. And now you're watching a Kobe, a Jordan, a Drew Brees, where like we used to just synonymous with greatness. And now you're like, it's okay.
I think it's one of two things. I think it's either Brady once he left the Patriots and like, he played and there were some great games and he had some chances. Or which
He's
is basically
still got a chip though. That's the thing.
Well, that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like there'll be moments and you'll see some great games. And like I think the Guardians will be like some great, like, oh my God, it's Brady's back. Or it's the eye of the hurricane, and they had to recalibrate from basically a really rough lockdown. They had to recalibrate from the pandemic. They had to realize what they were again, and then we come back, and it's back to being this whirlwind.
Yeah, it's
like it could be the eye of the hurricane.
But it's the same thing like what we talked about. We can bring it back to DC now with when it comes to Swamp Thing, the conversation we had a little while ago, right? And it's the first question, and all the questions that people would ask James Gunn if they had him in an interview. The first thing that I would ask him is about Swamp Thing. Not because it's my most anticipated, because I think it has the most potential to be like a Blumhouse type movie with a $40 million budget with an opportunity to make a real profit on it, instead of throwing that superhero movie budget at it. And then, wait a minute, it just made $300 million and it lost money. When if you make it at $40 million and it makes $300 million, then it makes a big profit. Like you look at what Black Adam did, you look at what Ant-Man did. Stop with these budgets. And it's also if you want to simplify, and I've been talking about this forever with Terminator. If they ever do another Terminator movie, because Terminator right now, it's one of those things, it's like it's beaten to death and nobody wants to see it anymore, right? I still think that if they come back and they did a 1984 version of that movie and I don't mean setting it in 1984, I mean actually like the type of budget and the type of low science fiction horror film you can make hand over fist with the kind of profit that movie would make. And the same thing could be said if you start to switch it up and try it with the Marvel movies. Try it with the DC movies. Try it and see like, okay, let's lower the budgets a little bit. And I know that stars have big price tags and everything too. Offer them some of the budget. I mean, offer them some of the points.
I mean, that's how Downey made so much money.
Exactly. It's like, stop with these $200 million. It's one of the reasons why Spielberg pulls Tom Cruise to the side and says, you saved Hollywood's ass. And people are like, oh, why is he taking shots at Marvel and everything too? He's not. The point is that
it's so funny. I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah, but it's the only thing, when it's the only game in town, people like, you can't just assume that everyone loves comic book movies. We do. We talk about it on the show all the time, but there are people who want to go to the movies. And what Spielberg was telling Tom Cruise was, thank you for getting people who, besides just comic book movie fans, getting people back into the theater. That's what saved Hollywood's ass, not just the comic book.
But you know what's funny about that is who is really to blame? Like, because the more I think about
Marvel's fault. It's not. It's not.
No. I know, but at a certain point, I got to look at the studio heads and the fact that they, yes, it was a cash cow. Let's not pretend like it wasn't dominating. But any innovator, any coach, again, if you want to take this to sports, I don't care what kind of game plan you came into. At a certain point,
You got to
the other team are going to figure it out. It's about adjustments. If you do not make the adjustments to be ready for the next step, you're screwed.
And that's what I think Kevin Feige's doing right now. And that's why it could be the eye of the hurricane.
That's also why Iger stepped in.
I 100% agree. And I think that honestly, them being public about it is why I think it's the eye of the hurricane, not Brady. Because them going like, hey, the movie's not even out yet. We're going to move the Marvels. We're going to get ahead of this. It didn't feel reactionary. It felt like they were like, we know we're not where we need to be. Let's solve the problem. And that's why I'm worried about the Guardians conversation. That's why I'm worried about the comfort of how good that movie's going to be, throwing things off. But since they moved the Marvels before Guardians, now I think we're in a better place. Since they moved the shows, all those things.
They need to be, because the thing is if Guardians doesn't deliver, which I think it will, but if it doesn't deliver, and not just box office wise, in general, right? If Guardians doesn't, they're approaching dangerous territory.
Because if you look at all the drop-offs, I mean, we were talking about 72% for this. A lot of the biggest drop-offs have been in the Phase 4 films.
Right.
Like, if you look at the way the momentum's going, and it was funny, one of the biggest drop-offs is Spider-Man No Way Home, but that just made so much money. Yeah. So that one always feels like an asterisk. Like, when you look at them, though, it's the
but
recent
it's a Sony
ones,
movie, too.
It's also a Sony movie.
What's the last, you and I were talking about this, what's the last great Marvel MCU movie? Endgame. The last great one. That's it.
Shang-Chi is 2/3 great.
Yeah, right. I'm talking about full package.
Yeah.
Full package. Not a movie that's like, like for me, Shang-Chi had me for the first two.
You're
right.
not counting Spider-Man.
No, because it's a Sony movie. I mean, it's still an MCU movie, but I'm talking about last great Marvel Studios movie.
I guess that was the part that I was always confused about. I thought that was a Marvel Studios. Sony is just like in there helping out.
Oh, no,
it's a Sony film.
It's a Sony movie. Marvel, because of the collaboration, they have the story that combines that fits the MCU.
Okay.
That was the agreement there, but
And it's the Marvel
Sony's making
tag,
the money
not in association with, because of that strength.
Yeah.
But it's still a Sony film.
That's why when you get the invite to the screenings, it's coming in from Sony. It's not coming in from Disney.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so if Guardians doesn't deliver, they're in major trouble.
Yeah.
But we think it will. If Marvel's doesn't deliver, and it's the same type of thing where it's like over CGI and it doesn't land with people, they're gonna really have to maybe going back to Winston's point, is they're gonna have to revamp the idea of these are all the movies that we have coming out now. It's like maybe you just focus in on Fantastic Four and X-Men now, and that's what you got to do.
I'm sorry that I'm on such a sports trip today, but it reminds me of when LeBron went to Miami. Not 4 rings, not 5 rings, not 6, not 7. Focus on this season.
Right.
Yeah.
Focus on right now.
Right.
And it's very interesting how even with LeBron, there was a point where he stopped making that grandiose, like that feels like a young guy move to be like, I'm going to bring every championship ever to this place. Focus on the 3 movies coming out this year and make that your priority. Focus, instead of on 8 TV shows, focus on 2.
And to be fair to them, I think a lot of that had to do with Chapek. I think
Chapek wanted every month a new show. And I think Iyer coming back. I think there's 2 really, really good things about to happen. One, the next movie after Guardians is Nia DaCosta. And I think that she is a genius of visuals and low budget. Candyman is such...
That's a Marvel?
Yeah. Okay. Candyman shocked me with how much I loved it. They should have done Kang in a $40 million movie and let Jonathan Majors play and flex, and I think she will. Yeah. Like, I think if they'd made a $40 million... If they'd used the budget of Ant-Man 1, but had Jonathan Majors in it...
That's the thing, though. Look at Eternals, man. Like, and we like the Eternals, right?
Love.
I think that Chloe Zhao was making all these other movies that for like $17. And then they give her like $200 million. And it's like, that if you would have given her 40,
it would have been a different. It would have
been, but it's still, she would have done amazing work with it. But you give her $200 million. She goes, of course.
I'm not even trying to restart beef, but I just see Brett sitting over there now. I'm just thinking about y'all going in on Rob Zombie and what he got 11.
Well, we said 40. We said because Brett and I were talking about the other day. We went to that Mandalorian event, and we were driving over, and we're like, what if Rob Zombie's there? And I go, I guarantee that, because he tweeted out after we put that video out, and that video did pretty well. He tweeted out, he goes, who's saying I had a $40 million budget? And you're going through it. And we're not the only ones who's saying it, but I was like, I'm guaranteeing you that guy's like,
part of that conversation.
He hates us. He hates. I don't blame him, but he hates us.
The other, one was that. 2 is bring Rob Zombie to the MCU. No, 2 is, if you look at the directors that DCU's bringing in Ben Affleck is the rumor. James Mangold seems locked in. James Gunn. Look at those type of directors. What Marvel hasn't announced is the X-Men directors. What they haven't announced is so I think the stumble happening right now might be great because we're about to go into a new world of Marvel with X-Men and Fantastic Four and those things. It might be good for DC to be gaining power and Marvel to be stumbling when they're about to go into their next.
True. Marvel needs. My opinion is this. I think you get to this multiverse thing and all that because the multiverse, as much as I love multiverses and everything too, it ain't working. It's just not working. And I think that you basically get to a point, you wrap it up, and then you just focus and you get as simple as possible and you focus on Fantastic Four and you focus on X-Men, call it a day.
I don't disagree with you in the sense that the one thing that worked for them, yes, you had the obscurity of, say, the Guardians, but that's because even though they were technically B-listers compared to, say, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman and all that, you came in with your quote-unquote A-listers for the MCU of the OG Avengers, so Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Thor. You don't really kind of have that right now.
You do that with the X-Men.
They sort of are around.
Yeah, but you can do that. But you do that with the X-Men
because they're already bankable. Right, well, you don't have to invent a new Iron Man. Like Iron Man is a C-list character. Downey made great. Right. Wolverine's Wolverine. Like, you know what I mean? That's Cyclops is Cyclops, and he's never been done right.
But look at what they did. What Fox did poorly. They were trying to do it. They just did it poorly because they didn't really get it. It's like it's similar to me in like the way that Kathleen Kennedy looks at Star Wars, the way that the Fox executives kind of looked at X-Men, is that they would make these movies and then they put Deadpool in the movie, but they taped up his mouth, like the stupid things that they. But hold on. But the stuff that they did inside of that, they were trying to get these movies made, and they were trying to do whether it was a Gambit movie, and they were trying, which I think in theory was a good move, but I remember. Gambit was going to be like $210 million.
That was insane.
It was insane, which is smartly they didn't do that, but they tried to do these spin-off movies. That's what Marvel should do, is essentially exactly what they did with the X-Men, I mean with the Avengers. Just start to make the standalone movies, make it about the X-Men. Get away from all these side character stuff right now because it's not working. It's not working. Just focus on the X-Men, build that out, have the Fantastic Four in there. That's your movies from like 2025 until like 2030.
And the genius of it is X Factor, X Force, X-Men. You can actually do all of these different things like Marvel wants, but it is canon in a way that will tell a cohesive story as opposed to like, let's try to bring this over here. Like as much, I loved their Daredevil She-Hulk episode because that works with those characters. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of other times they have team ups now, it's because like this actor's popular and this actor's popular.
100%.
And that's the first time I felt like Marvel is kowtailing to pressure, not to story.
The pressure part of it, you could not be more right about. And I also said, and I brought this up many times over, that you never heard Feige talk about like, this is a so-and-so movie, like the director, this is a genre, this is crime. We brought this person in.
Forget, bro. You made a face.
Yeah.
We were at Love and Thunder.
We went to this Love and Thunder. And Kevin Feige was doing an interview.
Yeah.
And they asked him, and it was a right question to ask. They said, every movie that you guys have done, you've done the crime heist movies, you've done the John Hughes type thing, you've done the science fiction opera. What genre is this movie? It's a Taika Waititi movie. Oh no! And nothing against Taika.
At that point, Kristian was like, "I think I want to leave." Like he was.
I don't need to see this. I'm good.
And I loved Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I loved Ragnarok, but that's not. It's not a. It has a Taika flavor to it, but it's not a Taika. It's a space fantasy. It is.
And what's funny is if you say a David Fincher movie, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not in a genre, though.
No, yeah, David Fincher like, almost has taken on his own genre. For
but Batman works as a David Fincher thing.
Yes.
But it's interesting that when you say Taika, we both go, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I
mean,
look,
you say Fincher with Batman,
and if somebody said like, look, this, and if he would have said the same type of thing, like, you know, we've got a little bit of a Tarantino vibe to this one. I'd be like, oh, okay, I get what you're going for here. But it's like it's different. It's like it's
the whole painting. It's like you need accent of Taika, not the whole.
Or maybe I don't like the genre of what Taika has been for that particular movie.
And that was the other thing I was going to say is that I really do like Taika and the work that he's put out, but I can also see, knowing that the stuff that he is most famous for, you have Ragnarok, sure. But
he didn't write that movie. He added stuff to it.
What We Do in the Shadows. Jojo Rabbit, which I love Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
but that is highly satirical.
Yeah,
you know, like
I wouldn't necessarily want Wes Anderson making an X-Men movie, but I love Wes Anderson movies. Like if you look at Taika's movies that I love, like Boy and Hunt for the Wilder People, that's because they don't have to tie into this world.
Yes.
Let it be. That's why I'm excited for Rebel Moon, because I would love to see Zack Snyder not have to play with IP.
He does his own thing, right?
Make a Star Wars that's Star Wars-less.
Right, and that's exactly, and that's ultimately, I think, the smart move of why he did what he did. But look, but I'll tell you what, right now, Marvel, they have their work cut out for them, right? DC, they're established, but they need to kind of have that move. You know who's the new kid on the block and kicking ass? Boom. That's right, Boom Studios. And how about that announcement?
Dude,
tell us about it.
guys.
Tell us about it. Go ahead, you tell us first.
Something is Killing the Children, a book I have talked about since 2018, going into 2019, a book that I've been obsessed with, a book that you can go back and watch an episode of Comic Book Shopping with me and Damon Lindelof. And Damon Lindelof's an actual weekly Wednesday warrior. The challenge of finding a book that man hadn't read. This was so obscure, the great Damon Lindelof didn't know it, is now getting a Netflix show. A Netflix show from a team that is crushing it, that Kristian loves particularly. He's talked about them on this show. And
Dark.
It is going to be, I mean, the book is called Something is Killing the Children.
No. The name of the show is Dark from Netflix. And 1899 or 1889. I can't remember. I didn't watch it.
So people came out and they were like, why would they work with Netflix again? And I think there's an issue of understanding the industry side. When you have something and you have a deal with someone, it's good to work with people you know. So clearly they have faith in this team, and the show didn't work out in the way they wanted to. So I'm ever more excited because Boom is, we talk about all the time, very studio based. They're called Boom Studios. They seem to be playing in all sorts of mediums. They have like long-term goals. They know what the market is. And now they're tapping into the TV market with an incredible team and an incredible book. And I literally was so overjoyed at this announcement. I think this is the perfect blend to take these guys to the next level. Boom is going to be everywhere. I'm so excited.
And that's not even what we're talking about with them today. No, it's not.
Did you hear that announcement?
I did hear that.
I was afraid.
No, that's why I wanted you to bring up for sure. But
Okay, I was like, did I mention the wrong
in
thing?
fact, no, that's absolutely right. But how about this? You talk about other stuff that
Dude,
they
also
do have.
cross it over.
It's amazing. So
Mix and
Buffy,
mediums?
man, out this week. Boom Studios. The brand new story from the universe of Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer. It is the post-apocalyptic Elseworlds-esque setting established in the breakout hit miniseries from 2001. And the standalone special... What's that? 2021, excuse me. The standalone special reunites the creative team on the original book, writer Casey Gilly and artist Joe Jarrow, colorist Joanna Lafuente, and the letterer Ed Dukeshire for another thrilling story that puts Buffy, Angel, and Tess on a collision course with a mysterious new form of vampire. This is so cool that they were able to do Buffy. I absolutely love it. Fans of Buffy are not going to want to miss this one. Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer special #1. It's out now at your local comic book store. And if you're late to the party on the Last Vampire Slayer universe, the original miniseries is available as a collection now wherever books are sold. Also, out this week from Boom Studios is Magic #24, the penultimate installment in the hit series based on the universe of Magic the Gathering. I know that Ellis right now is probably reading it. With just one issue to go before the epic finale of the War of Fate and the entire series, now is the perfect time to catch up on this multiverse of adventure. So, all right, you guys checked it out. Winston, what are your thoughts on some of this stuff?
So I didn't even know about the last Slayer universe, and so now it's similar.
It's right up your alley.
1,000%.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden I want to go run back and try and find, what came before it. But
We have connections.
And no people.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll let a brother know because we broke right now, so I'll take anything for free. But I one, the art is beautiful. It is that is the one thing I have to give Boom credit for across the board. It's not to say that other comic book studios and stuff like that don't have beautiful artwork. Consistently with every single title that we've seen, my mind has been blown by how
No filler artists, no people that don't feel like they fit the tone of the book.
No, it by itself tells its own story with the stylings that they're doing with this. But I just love very much in the beginning, you automatically get that Buffy, like that angsty, in your face attitude feel right out of the gate. I am absolutely ecstatic for this, and like I said, I'm gonna be going and looking up the previous stuff. But even this opening fight sequence had me laughing while it was happening. So Yeah.
I love going off your thing with the art. I love that the tones of the books always feel accurate to the world because I don't know magic as well, and I think that the Buffy tone is really hard to walk because it's youthful but not sophomoric. It's not immature but it's fun. It's a really hard line to walk, especially all these years later, and they nail it with this book. And then the magic world, the art and the feel, it feels epic in scope. But I love that Boom chooses to kind of button their arcs. Like 25 is a good amount to buy. Like that's a good amount to consume. It doesn't feel overwhelming to dive into. And like Berserker's final issue of this arc is out on the 15th, and I like that it's 12. That's a big trade, or it's 2 small trades. It's all really attainable for comic fans. People that don't know comics, it's hard to look at Spider-Man 762 and be like, okay, as opposed to like these worlds they make contained. So I just think they know the modern comic fan more than other studios might, because there is a different thing because of these movies, because of these shows. You want to get people started in a comic store, and you don't want it to be oppressive. So I love that they are an approachable studio.
Well, this is also, I've been getting, like, the second that story broke, they were teaming up with the team from Dark, and it was because we were talking about that book. You've been talking about that book forever. And but it also is something that we've been talking about, is they are making a move because they do so many different genres, right? They do so many different things. They have IPs that, whether it's Buffy, Magic the Gathering, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, like the stuff that they have. Yes, but it's their original stuff also, and this other things that they have, and playing in the science fiction and the horror and the thrillers. This is not the last time we're going to hear about their stuff. And like you said, with Berserker and other things, you're going to keep hearing about them because they are doing what we just talked about. And that's hitting from the lower budget side, and not like $3 million. They're putting money into it, but they don't need to spend $200-300 million. And I hope that when they have the means that they, maybe they do right now. I don't know, but when they do, that they don't, because it's stuff like this. These are the types of stories that they're making, that if they continue to do this and make stuff like this, and I mean, the Magic the Gathering stuff, and putting that in there and taking, I know that Magic and both Buffy already have stuff that they're working on, but I'm just talking about what Boom does in general. They're doing things the right way, the way the studio does, and I would say that whether or not they were sponsoring this part of the show or not, it's again going back to what the conversation I had with you guys the other day about other sponsors, right? We get people involved in this show that we believe in, that we want to, that we would tell you guys about. And that's why we're partnering up with Boom, because look at what they're doing.
I also think that there's nobody that's in the position of, they've learned from so many other comic companies, and right now is this golden age of comic book adaptation.
Yep.
So they're in this unique, incredible spot where not only is everyone in-house a giant comic fan and make great comic books, but we're seeing adaptations happen in real time. Something Is Killing the Children's only, I said, 2018, 2019, 3-4 years old.
Yeah,
so the fact that in real time, like, that's not how things usually work. So look, we just talked about Spider-Man, how like you were like, is it Marvel or Sony? That is a thing that will never happen for them, because they're all these are their books. This is their thing they can make. So I just love that we're living in a time to see something happen in real time. Like Berserker is finishing in 2 weeks this arc, but the movie's making moves. We're getting a show. We're getting all these things because they can make this stuff.
All
so
right,
excited.
Listen, man. So we had a pretty. It was funny because we came in. We were like, okay, we have a couple things we want to talk about, and we want to. But it's really, it is really that time to talk about this right now. And it's a question that goes to you guys: is Marvel in trouble? Is the MCU in trouble? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments for sure. Do you think, like Coy said, can they bounce back? Should they focus on Fantastic Four? Should they focus on X-Men? And then bouncing into the Ben Affleck story as well, too. Do you think that Ben Affleck should direct The Brave and the Bold? Is that going to be the movie that he does? And obviously, check out the stuff from Boom Studios. All right. Winston, A. Marshall, where can they find you?
Yeah. You can find me at The Swaggy Blurred on all the platforms, man. It's Friday today, so that means that episode 2 of the Bel Air Review should be out. Watch the Throne podcast with me, myself, and Matt Thomas. Definitely check that. And then go follow me over on TikTok, man. I got some fun content over there right now.
You can find me at that name on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I'm trying to grow my YouTube, trying to do more out of the theater reviews. I enjoy just like walking to the theater and talking about movies with you guys. And I'm going to start doing Wu-Tang and American Saga is back, and that is one of my favorite shows on TV that I don't feel like other people are talking about. Yeah, dude. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's talking about it. It came back.
Did you not know it was back, or you just can't believe he watched
I
it?
didn't know that Nicole's watching Wu-Tang.
Oh, dude, I
Makes
love
sense,
Wu-Tang.
yeah.
Is
We can't
Wu-Tang?
tell you nothing to F with.
Dude, what they've accomplished with that show is literally the Avengers for TV. If you watch that show, they've got like Method and RZA and all these different superheroes that team up to make this show. It's perfect.
Liquid swords.
Stop black-splaining the Wu-Tang American Soccer to me, bro.
Not to you.
I'm aware.
Not to you. I'm Capes and Cowls splaining.
You didn't know
the
liquid
show to
swords?
the
You never heard of
people.
liquid swords?
No, but if you look at our audience, if you look at the Capes and Cowls audience and you parallel it to the Avengers, then they might watch
Dirty
Wu-Tang
B?
and American Saga on Hulu, which just came back for season 3 on February 15th.
Method Man and Wu-Tang ain't
It's
nothing
so
to
good, dude. Dude, he did that at a Minions party, and it was all like these 7-year-olds, and he didn't censor it, and I was like, this is Wu-Tang. Like, it was incredible to see kids being like, yeah, and discover the power of Wu.
So good. All right,
Show's
listen.
so good.
Thank you guys for joining us.
for the
Appreciate-
children.
Yeah,
It is.
Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure again, comment, subscribe if you haven't done that already. Very, very important to do that. Please hit that button. We're almost at 70,000, so do it. Spotify, man. Like I said, don't worry. I'm gonna put this up on Spotify at the same time. I love people do get upset when you don't post it on Spotify right away, and that's a good thing. Get yourself one of those shirts, whether it's Sith Council or Capes and Cowls or whatever it might be. Make sure you do that. And then Patreon, man, really help the show out if you join. Patreon.com/The Big Thing Show. Get a lot of benefits over there for you. So check it out, everybody. All right. For myself and Winston and Coy, it's Capes and Cowls, everybody. We appreciate you. And thank you once again to the great art of Wicked Art. We out.